Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Museum Open House. This ongoing series features and highlights many of the outstanding museums and other cultural institutions. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about current and upcoming exhibits, various programs, resources, and other opportunities that are available for the general public. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Joel Baker, the founder and owner of American Giants, which contributes to the American Giants Museum located in Atlanta, Illinois. This roadside attraction museum is dedicated to preserving and celebrating the large fiberglass statues known as Muffler Men, Bunyan Giants, and similar giants, built mostly by the International Fiberglass Company in the 1960s and 70s. During the program, we're learning why and how the American Giants Museum came about and how it operates today. We'll go on a behind the scenes tour and in the process come to better understand and appreciate the history of these giant statues, the company that made them, and the culture of roadside advertising in Americana in the 20th century. Let's start by meeting Joel and then hearing all about the American Giants Museum. Welcome, Joel. So delighted to be able to be here.
Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to have a chat.
It was so fun coming across, finding out first about the American Giants Museum, made me think about growing up uh, in the 60s and 70s, eager to hear much more about the museum, your involvement, and inform viewers. But before we jump right to that, I think it would be of interest if you'd share just briefly anything else a little about your background or professional interest, please.
Yeah, sure. So my background is mostly in media. That's what I went to school for. My background is in media. It actually plays into the story of Muffler Men because that's kind of how it started. I was working on a media team, actually these satellite and production remote trucks, much like you would use at a football game that travel around the country. And I traveled all over the United States at the time with the job I had. And I started noticing these giants occasionally in my travels. So it was in Florida in 2011, I believe, when I was actually trying to figure out why a big giant dinosaur near Brooksville, Florida, didn't have a head. And that led me to a website called Roadside America, which is a fantastic website that tells you all about unique, odd roadside attractions. And I saw a banner there for Muffler Men, and that was the first time I had seen the Giants in passing, but didn't really, think too much about it. And that was the first time I read their history and a little bit about, Venice, California, and the company that made them so long ago. And there was, at the time, there was one in Zephyr Hills, Florida, and another one nearby in Dade City. And so within a day of reading that article, I actually made my two first sightings of Muffler Men. And something just went off in my head like a light bulb, and I thought, this is so neat. It's so niche, and very few people are, into this. And it just kind of happened over the next, it's been over 10 years now.
And how did you happen upon Atlanta, Illinois to become the home of the American Giants Museum?
That's a great question. As I started to do more research with Muffler Men and really do, it was much more than just go and take a selfie with them. I was really digging. I was really going into depth, of the history of these giants, and that led with my media background to the desire to do some YouTube videos to talk about what I was learning and share it. And so in 2012, about a year into this hobby of mine, me and some buddies went up Route 66 through Illinois. And of course, there's lots of Muffler Men. We made some stops along the way there in Springfield, at the Lauterbach, Bunyan, and we drove into town in July, I believe it was, of 2012, to see the Hot Dog Man, which is well known Route 66 attraction in Illinois, tiny little town of Atlanta. And we were getting some footage, and I had put a GoPro up on top of a pole, and I would literally like put it up by the giant's face to get some very unique images that most people don't have. I wanted to make my videos interesting. And across the street on the second floor of a building was the office of a man named Bill Thomas. And he looked out his window and saw me out there and came out and chatted with us. And he really connected with me because he was becoming aware that these muffler men were really attracting visitors to that little town. And he was always amazed at the response that these giants got in the public and the Route 66 traveler. And he realized that I also had the same, understanding, and I got it. So we exchanged information, and over the years, which was many years, he we would keep in touch, and sometimes I would go back to that little town, and I would have talks on Muffler Man for the Palms Cafe, which was running at the time, and like a dinner event, and then a talk after, and I would talk all about the history of the Giants. And sometime, somewhere along the way, Bill and I started chatting about this idea that we could have a museum where he could use his connections and experience he had a lot of experience with making small museums in that town and others. And I had a large collection by that time that I had collected of Men. And so, yeah, the dream slowly became a reality.
For sure, for sure. And we're fortunate to have some wonderful images of the museum outside and inside. And we're gonna take a little tour and first highlight this fine gentleman outside known as Big Friend. Could you share a little bit about his background and how you came upon him and any restoration that was involved?
Yeah, that would be happy to. So this is a Texaco Big Friend. This is a giant that was made by International Fiberglass, the same company that made the Muffler Men, the Bunyans, and so on, the different variations that we see across the country. The Texaco Big Friend program was probably birthed around 1966 with some discussions with the Texaco Corporation, who wanted to have a promotion. They called it the Big Friend promotion. And the idea was that these Texaco attendants at the Texaco stations were bigger than life and could help the family car that was in trouble. And it ran with a national ad campaign and commercials on TV. And the idea that is that they would make this giant attendant that they actually would set up at the gas station. And this was all to just reinforce in the customer's mind that Texaco was the place to go. Gas stations were so different back then, right? They weren't just a convenience store where you got a pack of cigarettes and a soda. They were a hospital for your car. This was like you would go there for everything, and the dealer would know your family, and it was a much more personal experience back then. And so this played right into that. And Texaco signed a contract with International Fiberglass to make 300 of these Texaco Big Friends that were around 23 feet tall. They actually came out a little larger than planned. And with an option to buy 2,800 more of them in the
Wow.
future, which is an incredible order. So 300 of these were made. The artist who designed this, his name was Sasha Schnittman, and he made the Texaco Big Friend, and these were launched nationwide across the country and set up all over and they're massive, massive figures. But there were some problems. The guys, the Texaco jobbers who had to move these guys around,
Mm.
transport them, set them up. They hated it. They really did. It was a big nuisance, a big nuisance. And these were blowing over in the wind and getting damaged, and they were subject to vandalism, and there was a lot of issues. So by the end of 1967, Texaco made a decision that, we're done with these guys. And they
Mm.
asked all of their stations to destroy them. It was much like Cecil B. DeMille when he was making movies in the 1930s. He would destroy the set when he was done with it, so these low budget guys didn't come in and make a movie on his set. And it was the same thing with Texaco. They didn't want the grocery store and the other gas station down the road to swoop in and steal the giant and use it. So they were all ordered destroyed. And to this day, to my knowledge, there are only six of these big friends that have survived through various
Wow.
experiences. They all have a unique story, which you can read about in the American Giants Museum. But one of the giants I had collected and talked about with Bill was the Texaco Big Friend, and we kind of wanted to capitalize on that. It's my favorite story, and it's such a unique story, and they're so rare that we decided to build and construct that little building that is the museum to resemble loosely a Texaco station, as you can see there. And that it would, the Texaco Giant would be the center point, and then of course we would add other giants to fill out the story. But you can notice we kind of copied a Texaco theme. That
Yeah,
is that is an original banjo sign from 1959 there for Texaco. So that is why the museum looks the way it looks with a giant Texaco Big Friend there.
that's fabulous backstory. Well, let's move on and take advantage of our time and some of the images you sent and hear just a little more about some of the other characters on the property. A few words about these fine individuals.
Yeah, so International Fiberglass realized quickly they started out with a Paul Bunyan that resembled these guys here, same general mold, but they realized quickly that there was a larger market out there if they could make different versions of their statue, and so that's what they got to work doing. And the guy on the left, we call him a Snurd. He's named after Mortimer Snurd, even though many argue he looks much more like Alfred E. Newman.
Hmm.
But he is called a Snurd, and inside the museum, there's a better example of his head with the full brim hat. But he was kind of a country bumpkin looking guy that really related well to amusement parks and different places. A lot of them were sent to Ohio and New Jersey up the East Coast. So that was a version, same body, but you can notice that
Mhm.
he's got the different head there. On the right side is a cowboy. They basically took that Muffler Man and filled in his beard to make him clean shaven and turned him into a cowboy. Phillips 66 did a very large program with International Fiberglass, probably ordered around 300 or at least 100 of these guys and use them at their gas stations. That was a bit more of a successful program, I would say. But we have an original there. I found that in the backwoods of Georgia a few
Wow.
years ago, and he was in terrible condition. He got fully restored, and he's at the museum to help tell the Phillips 66 story. And then in the background there, you have a Viking, which was its own build. It's a unique body there. And that was made for the Viking Carpet Company to help them advertise kitchen carpet of all things. And he was used in the late 60s. There's probably 15 or so of those that remain today. And so he was fully restored. And he's actually not mine. I have one, but mine is hasn't been restored yet. This one was restored recently and is on loan from some good friends of mine to stand there with a unique paint job. The paint job on him is not originally how they looked, but every owner has the decision when they have a Muffler Man of how they want him painted. So,
Sure.
but he looks fabulous there. So that's
Sure.
and then we're adding two more giants on those empty pedestals you can see in the picture.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. We're fortunate to have some images of the Phillips cowboy being installed. Can you share a little bit about this process?
Right. So when we find these, they're all often in disrepair. When I started American Giants, some buddies, I would subcontract them to help me restore these, and we were doing restorations as well. Those guys have now formed their own company, and they're called Regiant. And
Ah,
we still work hand in hand together. You can see the name on the truck there in the background, but
oh yeah.
Regiant is very, very good at restorations. This guy actually was restored by another friend of mine named Mark Klein. But Regiant here helps us with transport and setup. So that's why they're on site here. And we normally make a big event of putting giants up in the month of May, right around the holiday. And we put him up, and we make a big deal about it. A lot of people like to show up and watch this event, with the crane coming in and hoisting one of these giants back in the air and bolting him down. So it's always exciting to be on site when with these giants go up. And so that's what we're doing here. And we have these pedestals that we've made, and we bolt them down. You can see one of our guys going up on a ladder here. It's the only way to detach the hooks in his shoulders after we've bolted him down. So we have to literally climb up the giant so the crane can go free. But yeah, we'll be continuing to fill out those pedestals. Oh yeah, and oftentimes these Phillips 66 guys, they when they were set up, the station owners would throw a tire in their hands. So we thought it would be fun to do the same thing.
So, a couple of nice close-ups of the Viking. What are some of the challenges in restoring the giants?
Yeah, there's plenty. They're old. The fiberglass is brittle. There's lots of cracks. So a lot of sanding, a lot of time-consuming sanding has to go in, and then fiberglass repair. Sometimes we have to mold. We've made molds of these parts, and we have to make new pieces like an arm or a head to replace missing pieces from a giant. And then you can see the detail and work that goes into painting these giants. Thankfully, we're very thankful to have such a good painter. His name is Kurt Robinson, Airbrush Assassins out of Marion, Illinois, and he does all of our paint jobs. Has from the very beginning. We found him, and he's our go-to guy. And this is a more elaborate paint job. International
Mm.
Fiberglass pretty much worked with flat colors and basic paint jobs back in the 60s. But these days, you'll see Muffler Men owners. They really they really sometimes will go all out with airbrushing and stuff to bring the giants alive. And some people like that, the purist, I call them purists. They like the original look. And then other people really like these custom jobs. But it is a fabulous job. Must have taken him forever to put all that chainmail on there.
Yeah, it looks tremendous, tremendous. Inside the museum, can you give us a little sense of what visitors can look forward to seeing when they step inside the museum?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not like one of the museums you'd go to in Chicago. It's very small and humble, but I think yeah, we really enjoy it. And so inside is this little area where we keep all the smaller figures. International Fiberglass really made a lot of animals and small figures, and they did a lot of marketing campaigns with other companies. You can see up there on the right, there's a tiger. Esso and Exxon used the tigers. Get a tiger in your tank. And many of you may remember that. So that's an original tiger there. On the left, you see we call her a mama burger. This is from the A&W franchise, and they had a whole family. I've got a baby there on the ground. You can see her, and then there was also a teen and a papa, which I don't have yet. But we tell their stories and their history and have old photographs there. We've got some heads hanging from the ceiling to give you different examples of what the different versions. You can see the bottom of a Uniroyal gal for Uniroyal tire there. By
Mhm.
the way, there's a full version of her just around the corner at a restaurant there in Atlanta called the
Great.
Country Air. So you'll need to be sure and visit her for the full experience of what one of them looked like set up. And then we have like a traffic stopper, we call them, or I call them these guys professionals, but they were 12-foot giants that 10 or 12 foot, I forget exactly off the top of my head, but they were smaller and used by different gas stations and different companies. You can see, of course, we have a Bob's Big Boy. That was a request by hundreds of visitors in the first year of the museum. They said, "Where is your Bob's Big Boy?" And he's kind of the iconic image of an advertising figure. And so we were able to find him in Charleston, South Carolina, and he is an original from Shoney's down there. And you can see a little bit about me in the background and some of our
Yeah.
restoration work on the panels there. There's lots of information. So, you can just check out the Giants, or if you really want to geek out and get nerdy and read all the stuff, it's all there because that's what I'm into. I'm into the digging there. So, and then we have a few other heads and things scattered around. And the nice thing about the museum is, every year we swap out a lot of the stuff inside so the visitors can have a new experience if they come back.
Nice, nice. How have the residents of the town responded to having the American Giants Museum in their backyard?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we're all different in this country, aren't we, with our interests? So there's been a lot of support. We have a lot of volunteers that actually live in the local community and are able to come and run the museum and keep it open for visitors. And I am so thankful for the support we've had and from those local volunteers and from the Atlanta Betterment Fund, who without them, none of this would have been possible. But I'm sure there's people that I've lived in this town as well, and it's a little bit different to see all these giants here. So it's probably a mixed bag, but it's been a very positive for me. It's been a very positive experience, and I think it makes the town very, very unique. Yeah.
Most definitely, most definitely. What have been some of the reaction and feedback you've either observed or received from visitors since the museum's been up and running?
I think most people are, we're in the early stages still. We're getting the word out that this exists, and so I think when people, we're just now getting to the point where people are going to the town to see the Giants and see the museum, and that's great. But I know in the beginning, a lot of people would show up and be pretty surprised, like, what is this? And wrap your head around that there is a museum dedicated to the history of these colossal figures. But yeah, I've read so many positive comments and feedback on Facebook and so on of just people are really delighted to stumble upon this, and it doesn't take very long to go through, but you just come out with a very unique experience.
Are there any specific giants that you're on the lookout for and hope to acquire for the museum?
I'm always looking. I've got a trip next week where I'm going to the East Coast and bringing in some new statues and giants that we don't have yet, and I'm very excited about that. So yes, there are some unique figures. Sizzler in California, actually they were across the country. Sizzler Steakhouse, they had Sylvester the Bull, and he was made by International Fiberglass in maybe about 6 feet or so. Or with his pedestal, he's a little taller than that actually, but he very, very rare figure. I hope to be getting one of him at the museum. I'm always looking for some of the other really unique things they made. They made a boy, I call him the Bugle Boy, and he's playing a trumpet. There's a cartoony, crazy cow that they made. I'd love to find one of those. So I'm always on the hunt. I love the chase.
How about the long-term vision that you might have for the museum and the collection? What are you thinking in 5 to maybe 10 years from now, your hopes?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Well, next year's a big year, so we're putting a lot of focus into the Centennial right now on Route 66. There's going to be a lot of people traveling. And so I think we are gearing up for some changes. People can expect new giants over the years. Even when we fill out the museum and all those pedestals are full, I think you're still going to see change as I find new giants and able to restore them. You'll see us swap out giants. So you have a new experience there. And then I think you'll see the museum change over time too. We'd love to put a gift shop in there. A lot of people want some merch and something to remember their experience. So we're working on a lot of really cool projects right now.
What do you hope future generations, people even still growing up today, take away from a visit to the American Giants
Yeah.
Museum?
Yeah, yeah. And that's the whole point, to keep the giants here for those future generations so that we can remember what advertising and was like in the 1960s and get to like taste a little bit of that. So I think that's what I want the takeaway to be from visitors, that hey, there was a time when these colossal giants, were around America, and it's something that maybe my parents or my grandparents lived in that time, So I think the nostalgia part of all of this is a really firm connection, especially with those who are visiting the museum now and maybe like yourself have memories of these kinds of things as a child, So yeah, just to preserve that and letting these giants were built to get the family car to pull over and stop and make some memories, for your photo album. And I think it's the same today. That's the goal.
Do you have one or two of the giants that are particularly favorite of yours?
Well, of course, the big friend. I just love that story, and that particular big friend was on the Strip in Vegas back in the
Mm.
'60s, and spent some of his time at another business in the '80s. And he when I got him, he was completely ripped apart. So his story is very dear to me. So he's just to bring him back all the way to where he is now, fully restored, is really incredible. And if you watch some of my YouTube videos and things, I have lots of content online if you want to dive into this. But you'll see some of those pictures of how bad he looked and everything we had to do to restore him. But he's one of my favorites. Of course, I enjoy all the aspects, but yeah, and the cowboy too. That was really fun to find in the woods and get those a cowboy there, because there's lots of pictures from the '60s of those cowboys, and a really cool time in our roadside history.
In closing, you mentioned at the outset that you're about to install a couple of other giants on the
Mhm.
outside. Just a quick word, which ones will those be?
Sure, yeah. So I've got a few different kinds coming in. I was able to get International Fiberglass made a Santa statue. He's a unique looking guy. He's affectionately known as Freaky Santa to a lot of people in the Muffler Man community. But I am doing a trip very soon here to bring some of these giants back to the museum. He will be there, so hopefully this Christmas we'll have a Santa there. And then as far as the other pedestals, we're going to put a brave, an American Indian brave from Bemidji. That was a long time tourist attraction there, right next to the big Paul Bunyan and ox that are very iconic for that area. He was across the street. He's going to go up at the museum. And then I have to decide between another giant I'm picking up next week or one I've already collected from Chicago, which one is going to go there. But one of it'll be full by the centennial.
Fabulous, fabulous. Joel, in closing, how can viewers and others find out more about the museum and possibly getting in touch?
Sure, sure. Well, American Giants Museum is a great place to visit for information on your trip to Atlanta and everything the museum has to offer. But I'd also encourage you to visit American Giants, my pages. I'm on Instagram, especially Facebook. Look for me on Facebook. You'll just find a lot of information there. I post weekly. And then YouTube, of course. I do episodes all through the winter season mostly, and then reruns in the summer. But if you watch my YouTube, you're just going to have a wealth of all my adventures and travel and history on the Giants.
Oh, fabulous.
And then for those who really want to dig deep and help support me, I've got a Patreon. Look up American Giants on Patreon.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm definitely looking forward to those videos and other ways to find out more. This has been fabulous, Joel. Want to thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, we don't have any more to continue. Just want to say thanks again and wish you continued success with this incredible endeavor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.